Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our third session of Expert in the Room. Really hot topic today as we talk about hospitality, food and beverage, and how things have changed here with COVID and how the ACC and Mazzone Hospitality are preparing for our events with the food and beverage. I'm Doug McLean. I am the general manager here of the Albany Capitol Center, and I've been working with our guests today right from the start on preparing to open again. Before we get started, just a quick housekeeping note. Again, the session is being recorded, so you're all aware of that. Please mute your buttons or mute your microphones and be courteous to others. These are interactive sessions, so we do encourage questions. Assuming today we'll have quite a few questions. We ask that you use the Zoom chat for all questions. Quick overview of the Capitol Center and our preparation for opening. We are in phase 4 in New York State, as you all know, and we are capped at gatherings of up to 50 people. One item that we received some updates on is with a multi-purpose facility with multiple rooms, we are able to host multiple spaces of 50 people. And that 50 people does include our staff. So if we have a larger meeting and need to stream from one room to the other, keeping our occupancy at 50, we are able to do so. So that does allow us a little more flexibility in the numbers and what we're able to host. So that was some positive news that we were able to get from Empire State Development on that. We do manage the crowds, and we would suggest staggering egress and ingress so we don't have overlap and keep the numbers low in the spaces, the common areas here of the Capitol Center. So air filtration has been a hot topic here in the last 2 weeks with the malls opening last week, and we all know that Governor Cuomo put out a minimum requirement of MERV 11 for malls. Capitol Center had been in discussions with Clough Harbor, who is our engineer of record, since March in discussing our air filtration here at Capitol Center. We are installing MERV 11 filters, and we'll have those up, I would anticipate, within a week. Siemens has produced a air filtration technology which removes hydrogen, and the unit lives at the cooling coil, in the heating and cooling coil, and has shown some positive results on it removing the virus. And we are actually going to install that system here in the next week as a test to measure the air qualities. And then from those results, we'll move on from there and see if this will be something that we'll look forward to pending results. With me today, Sean Wilcoxon, who's the Vice President of Catering Operations with Mazzone Hospitality. And Sean and I have, since March, have exchanged many games of phone tag and conversations in preparation. So I thank Sean for joining us today. And he will certainly offer quite a bit here on what we're doing at the Capitol Center and what Mazzone is doing, at all their facilities. As we know, they're top notch in the area, and we certainly look forward to what he has to say. Also with me today is Shannon Lucid. Shannon is our Director of Sales, as all you know, and you get an opportunity to see her smiling face. And I know you've talked many times on the phone with her over the last few months. So Shannon has been the front lines along with Amelia on getting the questions about how to do things. So I'm happy to have Shannon here today. And I'm going to ask Shannon to get us started and get the conversation going on what she is, what are some of those questions. Shannon is I'll call her a bookworm, maybe a computer worm, but reads every article, attends every webinar as possible just to absorb what this COVID reality is. So, it's really great to have her on the staff, and keeps everybody up to date on what's going on, shares articles. So it's a great resource for us. So Shannon, with that, thanks for coming into the office today.
No problem.
It's good to see you. And then why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Great. Thanks, Doug. And a big thanks to Sean as well. I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
In person.
Yeah, in person is always great. And it's about my favorite topic, food.
There you go.
It's a win-win for me today, for sure. But as Doug said, I have been kind of digging into a lot of articles and a lot of stuff. So my information that I'm going to share today is actually from some of the sources that I've been looking at the last couple of weeks. One of the things in one of the articles I found that's up here that I found interesting was 74% of respondents for a data essential survey said that one of the biggest things that they're worried about is, wanting to know, hold on. And of course, I'm messing up right at the beginning. 74% of respondents said safety and health are the biggest factors of preventing them from dining out in restaurants. The study also revealed that nearly 40% of consumers are worried about touching items that others have touched, and 15% are worried about how staff is preparing and handling food, and 43% say it's just too risky to go. While this was a survey about restaurants, I think it safely can be transitioned into our environment. And I just thought, numbers don't lie. Numbers are very telling of what people are feeling out there. And this was the first source that I found that actually kind of captured some of that. So, the overall concept of not only are we open as a facility, but usually that's followed up with a question of, what about food?
Yeah.
How is that going to be handled? So, in our conversations that Amelia and I have with clients, those are almost coming hand in hand right now. So the picture that I have on here is sort of a great one that I actually got off of a hospitality family on Facebook. And people are saying the buffets are dead, and I was so excited to see this picture because just a creative way of rethinking, self-service or self-service station. So just to kind of kick us off a little bit, why don't you tell us the temperature of what you guys have been feeling and kind of what your thoughts are, just to get us started.
Well, first and foremost, a big thank you to both you, Doug, and the Capital Center family. Throughout all of this, information has been the most important thing in keeping people up to date on information. So I know many times I've played phone tag with Doug because that's what we do best. But the phone tag has been, based upon conversations of, what did you hear? Did you hear anything from your sources? Did you hear anything from your sources? What are you guys doing? What have you read? And, having the Capital Center, which is such a proactive facility, one that I can say I'm very proud to be a part of because of how proactive it is and really looking forward to what's next and how can we do it better. And, this place and all of you that are at home and watching that don't get a chance to see it, it is spotless. The team that's here that is not only, taking care of COVID specific stuff, but also using this time and not just letting the space sit. It is spotless and it's proud to be, and I'm proud to be here and be a part of it. So thank you. As far as what we have been going on, we have been doing a lot of learning how to do Zoom calls first and foremost, and then learning about what, food and beverage will look like going forward. And, one of the things that we see the most, and I right off of you, is how do we grow consumer confidence and how do we make sure that confidence is there the moment somebody walks into the door, when they're ready to start walking into the door, and then continues to grow from that. And they walk away from any experience they have with a really positive sense that they've been taken care of, in a way that feels safe, and that they haven't really lost any of the quality from a standpoint of hospitality, food, and beverage. So we've been doing a lot of training, a lot of rethinking, a lot of new standardization that we've been set forth, rethinking how food is served, everything from plated meals to drop-off meals to packaged meals to rethinking the buffet and the standpoint of serviced buffets. And that was already big in our repertoire of what we were doing from that chef attendant, if you will. But now everything has to be that way. And honestly, I think it's a trend that even post-COVID will continue to move forward because people really love bringing the food in front of them in that culinary directed world. This is just a great opportunity to hit fast forward and say, okay, we need to go from it to growing to that point to being here now. And how do we do that? So people still get to interact, they still get to have all of that option availability right at their fingertips. Somebody just does it for them, and they do it in a safe way. Yeah. We've had events in our venues that have been lower than 50 guests. We've had a chance to practice the social distancing. From our employees, even rethinking, what they have to do when they walk in the door, what, temperature checks from a standpoint of them understanding and being trained and very knowledgeable about what our new standards are. All of our employees that come back to work have to go through 2 trainings, a hospitality training and a pandemic specific training, as well as all the trainings that they formerly had to gone through from food handling and allergens training and everything else. So those are all consistent, but now we have 2 new trainings that before they can come back to work that they have to be fully aware of. And I see Doug, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around, but from a standpoint of the most important thing is to know that we are looking at everything. Our end game is to deliver food and beverage, but to get food and beverage delivered, you have to do everything in front of that. And so, I'm looking at the slide now from when our deliveries come in our back door and how, our purveyors have to be temperature checked and self-checked, and the understanding of how we sanitize boxes and do food handling, to our kitchens being set up in a different way where everybody can have their own workspace, things that were shared in the past, like a salt, pepper mixture, a spice mixture, an olive oil bottle, no longer are shared. These are all things now that are individually set up for each chef to be working off of, just to take every last precaution to do what we need to do. From our service standpoint, like I was saying to you, our personnel is all timed and scheduled in appropriately. They're all trained. They all, gloves and mask wearing are essentially non-negotiable, if you will. Their interactions in the back, the days of shaking hands, at least for the time being, are gone, or saying hello or congregating in the same spot are all gone. We set up and made sure that we set up space and tried to do it as best we can in an outdoor setting for when breaks happen, so that it's even more overdue, again, when possible. Some of the things we've been doing outside of the Capitol Center as well as inside the Capitol Center are contactless deliveries, with delivering box lunches, box meals, that somebody can feel comfortable that their meal is they're the only person that's actually been, the only other outside person touching those meals are all done underneath our supervision with all of our things. So there's been a lot. What we're ready for now is we're ready to get back to work, but we're also very proud. I know I'm proud of, New York State being one of the states that's come to handle the COVID, response the very best, and that our numbers are very good. Unfortunately, with what's happening in the rest of the country, we have to be a part of that. And so as much as I'm ready to get back to work, I also don't want to fall backwards. Yeah. I want to go forwards. And so us going forwards meaning is respecting these rules, understanding that these rules aren't just rules to make our life more difficult, but rules to really make sure that we stay the best and we continue to be the best, and that when consumers come in here, that they're confident that they're receiving the safest, best, most quality that they can have, as well as our employees feeling in that, being in that same environment. And we think that, as restrictions stay as they are now, we can service people, especially obviously with this facility and all of its space, and being able to do multiple events at the same time if we plan properly. But then also, as the restrictions start to ease, numbers go up, we will be ready, and understanding that I'm working with you guys, you'll probably, not only send me the information, but write some of it, which is how we have to do it. So that's what's been going on.
Yeah, great recap. I know it's kind of hard not to go in a bunch of different directions, right? Because you guys are in the process of learning and evolving. As many of our clients sort of start to bridge the gap of, okay, we're going to start looking at our event for the future. What does the food portion look like? There's so many questions that come across the table. We are flooded with the amount of questions that people ask, some of which we know we have answers for, and some of which we know we don't. Yep. Some of which I think, are really important to maybe dial into, what do our customers have to worry about? What should their focus be to make sure that their attendees and their stakeholders and everyone is taken care of? Mm-hmm. You mentioned confidence is an important thing. Doug and I say many times, we no longer are selling our facility, we're selling confidence. Right. So I think it is a very, very important thing to make sure, you guys have done a great job of backing up all of that information with forward progress. And all training and everything that you just spoke of is great, I'm sure, for a lot of our clients to hear that a lot of this is starting to happen or has been happening behind the scenes. If you could give some advice to the clients that are listening for us today, how to help them not get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
The amount of questions that everyone I'm sure has, is there a way to help them feel good about coming, back to start planning things, that they don't have to worry about A, B, C, and D, that you guys are going to take care of it?
A couple of suggestions I would have is, going back to something we all learned when we were very young, that no question is a dumb question, because we are all in this together, and we, oftentimes learn from each other. So, understanding that we spend every one of our days, like Doug joked, and it's the same thing with me. Like, we spend every one of our days eagerly awaiting to get back to our trade. You love to sell this place and I love to serve food. Well, in the past 4 months, we've had very limited opportunities to do that, right? And so to do it in a positive sense. But what we've been doing is yearning for that information to make sure that we can when we're ready. And so what I would tell people is, understand that that's what you buy when you come by here. You buy our expertise and knowledge and research and database. So come to us and allow us to help you. And what we've learned in, some of the things that are posted on the slide that we're looking at right now is that every event, depending on what it's for, who it's for, when it's delivered, how it's delivered, can look different. The restrictions that are put on us are restrictive, but there's still a vast opportunity to do many different things. So it's not like every time you go out, it's going to look the exact same way now. Right. It's got to be dependent on, well, what are you trying to get at? Is the focus on, a presenter or a speaker that you want food to kind of be behind the scenes? Well, let's talk about how we make food behind the scenes, and whether we deliver in a box lunch fashion or in a quick serve type of fashion, that we do that. Or is food and, bringing people together, all, following all the rules, actually part of what you're trying to accomplish? Well, then maybe we do a plated service or a staff attended station event. Again, setting it up in all the proper ways, but bringing some sense of that normalcy back while following all the rules. Let us work together to find what's best for you. Because when we first got into this, we thought, okay, it's only going to be rolled silverware. A guest will never touch a plate again. You'll never be able to have an open glass. And we realized through restaurants reopening, well, that's not necessarily the case. We have to follow all the sanitation rules, have to stay social distance. But some of the things that are normal can still be normal. It's just how we get to those. But I just think that the most important thing that I can say is we are here and are yearning to be the experts for you. So let's get back to work. Let's start talking, even if it's not for next month or 3 months from now, even if it's for next year. Let's start planning, because there's no reason it can't be. Let's plan on the perfect situation, and let's plan on plan B, depending on where we're at with this, so we're that much further ahead. And let's start the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the conversations I have are about flexibility. Yeah. I say flexibility a lot. And luckily for us in this business, that's what we're all used to. We're used to kind of being that, okay, well, if we can't get that situation, then we'll do A, B, C, or D. Right. Some of our clients might not be used to that. But I think it's a great opportunity, like you said, to be creative. Yeah. A great opportunity, I think, for some of our clients to reinvent some items or some portions of their meetings that maybe have become stagnant or maybe have been the same for several years. Right. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of look outside of the box. And I agree with you. The more planning in advance, the better. Yeah. It kind of, I think, helps with some of those unanswered questions too. So I think so many people have so many questions surrounding food and beverage that I think it might be great advice just to say, dive right in. I love that.
And who knows what will come out of this that will never go away again. Yeah. Because it's like, we had to do it because of COVID. Yeah. But now, what a great idea that was. Right. And now that's like part of standard operating procedure post-COVID. And those are going to come, because in all of this, we will get better and learn. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't only learn, like, I don't know. When I look around this facility now, it's spotless, but it's not like it's never not spotless. It's not like it wasn't spotless before, right? And so yes, we've replaced every single, tiny little carpet tile and everything like that. We've gone that extra mile, but we're not learning how to be good at what we're doing. We're just getting better at what we were already good at and changing the game a little bit. And if you don't believe that that's going to change our industry, well, listen, let's think outside the box. Let's make this exciting. And that's we all can't wait for that, right? Yeah. We're yearning for it. We're ready for it. And the most important thing to also remember too is that if new guidance comes out tomorrow, give us an hour to read, study, talk to 10 different people and be the experts on that new guidance and understand that we'll twist, turn, whatever we have to do to be ready for it, and we'll meet it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know I feel sometimes a little lost when I'm reading so much information and going through so much, and it's hard not to get lost in it. And then a week later, I feel like I'm reading all brand new stuff. Right. But I think that's just the situation we're in right now. And, trying to stay up to date the best as possible to provide the information and guidance the best we can. I think is comforting to our clients, and I think comforting to our industry. It's like you said, we're all yearning to get back to what we do. And I'll go ahead of Doug for a minute. He's going to change his hashtag. Nice to meet you again. We're ready to meet you again.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Even our hashtag is evolving as we go through our process. So I think that's very poignant there. Well, I definitely want to touch base on a couple of things. Doug, if you can go back to the back to business slide. This is some stuff that you guys have started to develop for our clients. If you want to touch on a couple of different things, there's some awesome options that your team has put together.
So when this all first started, it's amazing to see what it looked like then and what it looks like now. So when this all first started, we thought for sure that when we came back to business, it would be a prepackaged, boxed, like across the board, no options for anything else. And so we tried to be as proactive as we can and went to our culinary team and said, okay, give us that, but not reducing the culinary experience. Like, so how do we deliver that? So we've taken everything from, breakfast, pre-breakfast snack, post-breakfast snack, lunch, post-lunch snack, and dinner, and gave options to allow people to select from menus that doesn't have to let the culinary experience die. We've even gotten better at perfecting the boxed hot meal, if you will. And that was one that was a big concern, like how do we do that? But out of pure necessity and client request, we got good at it. And so we have taken what we already had, some of the items on our menu, and just expanded on them to do from a package. So our box salads, our box lunches, and again, everything, making it interesting. It's not just turkey and white, it's what you want it to be. It's different breads, it's different sauces, it's creativity. We've tried to take, your best deli experience and put it in, a convention center experience. We've created the add-on options to make those, little nice touches even better. One of the things that people like the most is that post-lunch prior to dinner sweet option at the convention center, right? Whether it's a cookie or a chocolate snack mix or anything like that, and putting that into an option because you don't want to miss it. So, as of right now, we have a whole menu which we can share with everybody, through post after this that was on, and say, hey, listen, it's there for you. Start to look at it. And again, most importantly, we could also take any of these menus and build upon them, customize them, fit them specifically to any religious or dietary, meal need that hits on everything. And not only are we ready to do, but we're excited to do it. So
I was just going to say your chefs must be actually excited to have the time to really dive into all this creativity.
New stuff, so many new menus and looking at it differently because, in a convention center, we're usually preparing for 500 or 300 or 1,000 or 2,000. So you have to look at things differently. Right. When you're prepared for 50, and I'm not saying that it's not the same, but it's not the same. Yeah. So when you're preparing for 50, you can look at, much more minute details to really say, listen, if it's 50, well, then it's intimate. There's no room for any error. Like it's got to be perfect every single time. It's got to be fresh because, it's just those 50 people that are going to spread that word. So the chefs are behind it. I mean, our chefs have made probably 10 different menus coming out of this saying, how does this menu work now versus what it worked before? And listen, a lot of those menus and those items will stay with us long post COVID because they've had so much success.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for giving us a little bit of info on that. Amelia and myself certainly have access to these new menus, and we'll be happy to share it with anyone who is interested. They make me hungry even when I look at them, which is no big surprise. But okay, so maybe we'll dive into a couple of our questions here. Maybe we can go through a couple of them. Let's see. Buffets or plated meals? Will buffets have attendants or serve guests? How will plated meals be prepared, handled, or served? Maybe we start with that one, because I think the
We
buffet
talked about a
plated
little
meal
buffet, yeah.
has always been a long-going battle, I feel like, with our clients, which one's the better one to go with. So let's start with that one, because I think it's taken on a new meaning now.
So one thing that we have found is that the buffet meals are now, so essentially a lot of times people thought buffets where you have your variety of selection, you're not stuck with one thing, and in a lot of situations you can actually do it quicker, right? One thing now, because you have staff attendants and everything is hand served, buffets are taking a little bit longer. Although safe, although still complementing that, they're taking a little longer. So again, depending on what you're looking for, group size. What we have made, a conscious effort to do is that where we used to be able to service, 175 or 100 guests with one buffet, now we're serving it, where we might put up 2 buffets for 50 people and, lessen the options just a hair. But that way speed, works depending on what kind of size and anything we have. So that's still there. And any selection you had for a buffet, you still have. Again, just looking at timing. You also want to look at the fact of the bottom line is that masks help, right? But we can all agree that the more time without our mask on, the more comfortable we are. So with following all the rules, anytime you get up, you have to put that mask on. So when you're walking through the buffet, you have to have the mask on. You're walking to the bathroom, all those things. So in a plated meal situation, there's no getting up. I can bring that meal right to you. The mask can be off. So that's a pro and a con. Plated meal. So we started with, at first, it was what is the customer confidence and what will the customer we want versus what is the rule and what is the safety standard. So at first we thought there was no chance that we would be having open silverware or open glassware or anything like that, at least off the get-go. But the concern of COVID being transacted through the touching has come down a little bit. And, no regulation has said that we couldn't put open silverware on the table. But what we want people to know is that we have the option of rolling silverware, obviously from our safety component in the back. We have the option of bottled water. We actually are now sourcing individually packaged wine. We're sourcing, of course, beer is already individually packaged, and we are getting creative with cocktails too. So if you want a cocktail in a mason jar with a top on it, and you want to make that like a really fun way to say, hey, let's stay super creative. I want people to feel totally comfortable, right? So you give them rolled silverware. You give them, you serve it. You don't have anything that's a sharing on the table. So salt and pepper, anything, we'll have that available for, somebody to hand out a salt packet or whatnot. Then you could give them a bottle of water, a choice of a mixed sealed beverage, individually packaged beverage, beer or wine, all totally sealed. Yeah. So you give them the ultimate confidence of this. Then from a plated standpoint, we have the ability here to plate in the back. And again, where the customer wants to go with it. How far do you want to take the safety aspect of it? We serve with plate covers here already, so we're kind of ahead of that covering of the food when it comes out of the kitchen. Do you want us to actually now take the cover to the table and release the cover in front of the guest? Fine, we can do that. Or we can do it in the room in front of the guest, but from afar, and carry plates to the guest. Again, all things that are now options. Like how much do you want it to look new and change COVID related, or how much do you want to keep as much safety as you can? Be very confident. Obviously, we're washing with extremely high temperatures, with sanitizers. We're very confident of our ware washing and very confident of our practices behind the scenes. But if you want us to take it to the next level, we can. Or we can keep it looking with, water glasses that where we might have pre-filled waters in the back. Maybe we'll have the glass out now and we'll fill the water for you in front of you. Or if we had a pre-poured specialty cocktail, maybe that cocktail is poured in front of you with a glass on the table. So all different things that we can go with. Right now, the most efficient way is a plated meal. But still, like I guess always, it's not anything that's changed. The variety is still the buffet. Best case scenario, go with both. Maybe your snack station or your post-snack station where people need to get out is in a meal that happens after, like a plated meal, and then you do both. And so we're going to mix it up.
I think one of the important things that you touched on a lot, but one of the important things I'm hearing from you too is, we can provide whatever option people are comfortable with. and comfort level is probably the most important key. Communication and comfort, I think, is what I'm hearing from a lot of this. How comfortable do you want to make it? And you guys can take it as far as they need to take it.
And I also think you need to look at the group too.
Yeah.
Is the group all coming from maybe the same family of a company that is in 3 different offices and they're using the convention center, where, the bottom line is that I know you, Shannon. So me being around you might be a little bit more comfortable than me being around somebody else, because you don't know what their practices are in society, right? And that's just unfortunately life right now. Especially people traveling into town, like where is everybody coming from? So if it's your family of companies, maybe the comfort level of safety is a little bit bigger because the people, their families. Or is it the first time that we do bring a convention back in here where it has people coming from different areas, and we just have to say, hey, listen, we have to make guests feel as safe as they can. There's every table is a 72-inch round with 3 people at it, fully social distance. Across the board, we're looking at every single safety option, and we take it to that next level. But that's all dependent on what your guest list is, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, customization is not something we're unfamiliar with. It's, even though the blueprint of a lot of what we do every day is the same, every single event we see is different.
Yeah.
And I think this is definitely
Right.
different than that. Okay, so let's go to another one. Presentation, disposable versus glassware in China, and then specifically talking about cloth napkins, glass covering, sneeze guards, that sort of thing. What information can you share with us?
So what I will share first and foremost is that there's some really incredible disposables out there that if people just not paying too much attention might think it's glass in China. So there's some great options with disposable. The general feeling seems to be that a disposable plate that's used once and thrown away is as safe as it gets, right? Because then at the same token, even at a buffet, if it was a buffet, you can see those plates still individually wrapped in maybe packages of 18 or 50 or whatever they are. So you can actually see it being unwrapped with a person with gloves on, silverware that's pre-wrapped in a plastic bag with a napkin. Like, that's taking safety to the furthest. And people seem like, if you want to go with what makes people feel the most comfortable, that seems like that is the top notch. The other stance is the glass in China. Now, understand, way prior to COVID, during COVID, all of our sanitation practices had to be at a standard where there was no chance that glass in China was carrying, any type of anything. And so we feel very comfortable that all of our sanitation practices, as well as our enhanced sanitation of gloves and masks at all times, are going to keep us as safe.
Yeah.
But it has to be, do the customers feel as safe? So again, the way I feel about it is going to be totally different than the way that your customer that comes in to talk to you is going to feel about it. And understanding that there's options, I guess, is the best way to put it. If you want it to be more elegant, obviously glass in China seems to be the way to go. If you want it to be, a little bit more casual, plastic is going to be the way. Even in the times of COVID, plastic is going to feel more casual, but people are going to be a little bit more willing to say, "Oh, I'm going to feel a little bit more casual to have the utmost safety." So, again, it all depends. It all depends, but it's all flexibility. And the reason that we put this out there is versus. There's pros and cons to each.
Yeah.
What is it that you want? And we are not a company of saying this is what we're going to do for you. We're a company of saying, what can we do for you? You make the decisions, we'll follow them and carry out.
For all of the stuff that you guys have been trained on, does it seem another versus situation, the plastic gloves versus cloth gloves for service? What has anything been said on that?
We are with a black plastic glove. The reason being, one, it's, you kind of have the translucent glove, you have the white glove. The black glove, honestly, it's more about the look than anything else.
Sure.
It looks a little bit more sleek. It matches the uniform.
Sure.
It fits nice. And there's something about a black glove that doesn't look so medical, if you will.
Gotcha.
But it still has all of the sanitation. And so we do a black glove. And the most important thing about the glove is regular changes. Regular changes, and teaching people how often changes need to be made. The cloth glove gets very dirty very quickly, and the cloth can actually carry more of, something like a stain on it or something like that. Plastic gloves, so we take off the change. So we're working with black plastic gloves across the board.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure that helps. Another little detail that everyone's thinking about. Another little detail you guys are thinking about with the black gloves. I love it. I know you touched on the prepackaged breaks, the grab and go options. One of the number one questions I know that I get is beverage stations. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to hearing the answers to this. A lot of people are asking me, how are we ever going to serve coffee again? How are we ever going to do water break again? I would love to hear your thoughts on specifically the beverage stations or beverage breaks.
So we have seen innovation, right, in the field, in the marketplace. And so what are the greatest things about innovation is that it continues to make you better. So let's just stay with coffee stations specifically, and we'll stay right here with our facility. Well, like anything else, they need to be managed. Okay. And so it's at what extent does it need to be managed? And so at first we thought, like, literally we're gonna have to pour the coffee, do the cream for them, and it don't have to be all that. And then when we really got into it, we're lucky here is that all of our coffee urns have like a self-pouring mechanism on them where you can just push the glass into the toggle and it'll pour the coffee. So what we've come down to is that, the day and age at least this point of the open sugar cube with the spoon, that's out, so we're in all prepackaged sugar, sweet and low, and sugar and sweetener, creamer, same thing as well. And then the cups would be really where it was managed. So we'd have somebody there handing a cup to each person. And again, if you look in the details of what of what they actually say, is that a coffee station, if you have it set up properly, somebody can actually come up to a coffee station, grab their cup, only touch their cup, pour it, and this is a disposable situation, pour it, grab prepackaged sweetener, prepackaged creamer, and a top, and never touch anybody else. And so one of the things that is on the New York State recommendations is in that situation they would ask specifically that right next to those stations that are kind of self-service but you aren't touching anybody else's things, that you have hand sanitizer. So I know that the Capitol Center itself, as well as our company, we immediately invested in 16 tall standing hand sanitizer stations that can be dropped anywhere, and that you have hand sanitizer, and so you go through the process or do it. We believe that that's a service, it's a managed station where you kind of hand it out. And then you go to the bar. The bar situation is one that's a little bit more difficult because a bar inherently says, I want to talk to you, I want to mingle, like this is what we should be doing at the bar, right? So the bar as well as a coffee station needs to have clearly defined signage. Signage is key in these, and really in beverage stations too. And whether signage could be a human sign that's saying, please, stay here, this is 6 feet, or it can be actual temporary signage on the ground. And so, but a bar is going to be extremely important, that everything that we used to have in the front of the bar is now going to be on the back of the bar. That the ice is always in a covered situation when it's not being accessed. That the bartender is always wearing gloves. That there's no cash handling by the bartender themselves. Cash handling, if it needs to be at the bar, will be at a separate place by a separate person. And that, again, the bar at that point is really meant to be walk up, order your drink, get your drink, move along, in order for that flow to be going. And so also the number of bars, because of just the general nature of them where people can congregate, needs to be at the right situation so that we can keep everybody in that safe setting.
I think that's a great transition. We did get one of our people that are watching us today.
Hi, Chloe.
She did ask a very good question. I think transitions very well. She said, will your staff levels be increased across the board to include service guides? Meaning, will the catering team and or the venue staff be calling tables, maintaining social distance and buffet lines, etc., or will that responsibility fall to the client to control?
So when it deals with food and beverage, and thank you, Chloe, very good question. Yep. And the answer is the first two are yes, yes, and when it deals with food and beverage, it's our responsibility. And so again, one of the things that Mazzone Hospitality as a whole has prided themselves in is to own food and beverage. And so when you hire us, you don't have to worry about the food and beverage. You tell us what we want and we take it from there. So we are definitely in an increased staff level situation across the board because of the limitations to what one staff person can do and all of the added responsibility. The catering team, in conjunction, if there's an MC, can be a part of the coordination of calling tables. And if there's no MC or speaker situation, catering manager can absolutely control it. And will those responsibilities fall on the client? No. Right. And I can also tell you, specifically here at the Capitol Center, that the teams that we get to work with us worrying about food and beverage, and you guys worrying about facility and details and planning, that really once you plan with us here, you don't really have much to worry about other than your people and them themselves in your program, because we'll handle with our teams everything else to do the hospitality part of it. And so, great question, and I really believe that, you know, that's why you buy the people that you buy, because I think that is one of the separation points for the team at the Capitol Center, as well as our partnership here.
Thank you very much. I think it's great to kind of look at all these different avenues and know the teamwork is still there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, our
Has to
teamwork
be bigger,
is
more than ever.
Yep, more than ever. We have to work together, and we have to make our clients feel comfortable and safe to be back with us, so we can all see each other on our smiling faces, or mask to mask, face to face, or mask to mask, as I've been saying. Hopefully sometime soon. I did want to go back. There was a question that I had on my previous slide that I wanted to go back to. Let me just double check. Oh, the question was, what is your thoughts on groups entering a space? Whether it be a social event, or if you're coming from a general session and you're going into your lunch, transitioning spaces. You know, since you guys have done a couple of smaller events at some of your other properties, what have you seen, or what sort of guidance can you give us today on, you know, does everyone, you know, stay 6 feet apart in one straight line and go into the room? Do you use different entrances? How have you seen that working?
Well, I think it's really twofold. And the first is, well, what options do you have? You know, obviously here at the Capitol Center, we have a couple of different options because we have multiple entrances to rooms and things. I think with that, that's almost, you know, it's like that crowd control game in a smaller sense. But the most important thing, I think, signage. And then having, you know, properly trained, respectable staff that's been there. There's probably not a person in the world right now that hasn't gotten into at least a conversation with somebody that you didn't expect because you accidentally moved too close to them, or you got into their space, and maybe they reacted to you in a very pleasant way, and maybe they reacted to you in a very negative way, and you know, everybody's heightened sense of concern right now. Well, maybe that negative way led to more of a negative experience, where maybe somebody in a positive way led to a positive experience. And I think it's the same situation in really hospitality as a whole. But I think that greeting of guests when they arrive, the lead by example from a standpoint of, we're going to stay 6 feet apart. We're going to greet you with a smile on, even though you can't see it. We're going to help to explain what to expect, although in small tidbits, through a personal connection as well as signage, whether it be on the floor, whether it be sign standing. And then I think in this world, we can actually now make that part of the program.
Yeah.
And it can be, you know, in the planning stages of, well, what do we want? What do we send to the guests prior to this to tell them, hey, listen, we just want to let you know some of the things we're going to be doing. You're scheduled, you know, you're actually scheduled in at 9:15, but just so you're aware, others are scheduled at 9. Please be as timely as you possibly can so that we can stagger and really try to make everybody feel as comfortable. So pre-planning those options. And then once you're in the room, talking to people about it, making it very open, not making it like, you know, one of those like, well, I don't know if I should get up right now, but telling people like, hey, listen, it's perfectly fine to get up and go use the restroom. Just understand that you have to have your mask on when you stand up. And if you see people congregating there, maybe take a moment and make it so that it's out there, that it's a conversation, that it's not making somebody feel awkward because they asked, and making it just a part of the general everyday meeting.
Yeah, we've heard the term the new norm quite frequently, and I think that definitely rings true there. You know, making people feel like it's just the thing to do.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, like going into work every day. It's just the thing to do with a couple extra things.
And I was on a call just recently with others, and they made a comment, and I believe it's a great comment, is that, you know, I've had the chance to dine out at restaurants, and in every situation that I've dined out, I've seen the customer that's respected the rule, and I've seen the customer that's not respected the rule. But somebody said, if the facility that you're in respects the rules, that and they police those rules. And again, policing doesn't mean you're mean or rude. Policing means simply, oh, I'm sorry, you must have forgotten your mask. Will you please put the mask on when you stand? Like, you know, it's important for everybody. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and people will realize, listen, this is being taken seriously, and all they're simply asking is to keep everybody safe, and people will start to self-police a little bit more. But if we as an organization and as a group and as a partnership don't respect those rules, well, why should anybody else that is gathering with us respect them? So I think we leading by example is key in making sure that everybody, the people, because it's the person that's not respecting the rules isn't the person that's concerned. The person that is concerned, and then you don't want to put that person in an awkward position because we're allowing all these others to not respect the rules. So you do have to be very, very respectful that everybody is handling this differently. And just because you might be a little bit more comfortable doesn't mean the person 2 tables away isn't scared to death. And it was a real big deal for them to come out and have that experience out. And we want to make it as positive for them as the person that's not really bothered by it at all.
That's great. Awesome. Awesome advice for sure. Well, I'll check back in with Doug to see if there's anything else on the questions that we have, or maybe I missed something in what we were going through that you wanted to add.
No, first of all, Sean, great insight. Thank you so much. Shannon, great questions. I think that was you hit a lot of good points. A couple things I wanted to follow up on, and it kind of goes back to Chloe's question too, is the staffing. Obviously here, a facility like this, the staffing levels are going to increase, right? And you touched on, we have our food and beverage, staff, and then we have the facility staff and the facility maintenance and the housekeeping. So, the numbers increase, the quality of service can't decrease, right? We still need to always, and you said it, is we need to continue to do what we've always done. And for our existing clients, we do a survey at the end of our events, and we've all received excellent marks on what we've done. And I think it's it's important we keep that standard and even raise the bar even further. I feel our margin of error, as people get back into the events now, when they come in, it's heightened awareness.
Right.
So that margin of error is decreased. So I think it's even important for us both. One great resource here at the Capitol Center is you have ASM Global on the facility maintenance side, and you have Mazone Hospitality. So you're taking two large companies who do what they do very well and combining those resources.
Right.
And I shared with you our reactivation plan, for getting the facility started, and then took your input and said, this is the food and beverage side. So we're able to take the best practices of two great, companies and prepare for our opening. And, Shannon says this, we're ready to meet you again. It's not, when we meet you, is we're ready. So I think that's important. The last line item on here, and I think this is a huge thing for Mazone, and probably what really makes you guys stand out is, in this area and all that, there's no doubt, what you guys do, you do it well, you do it the best. And so what is taking advantage of the situation of COVID? And you said, what's the new norm? My experience, back at the arena and when we went through 9/11, and all of a sudden there was no event that you didn't walk through a metal detector before, where prior to 9/11, you walked into the facility and everyone was happy. So that was the new norm.
Yeah.
It's common practice, and no one ever, stops in front of the metal detector and says, what's this going on now? So coming out of this, what's the stamp, or have you found that yet, that you think, Mazone, again, taking it to the next level and what you guys do best, what's your creativity point? What's your comfort zone, so that folks look at it and say, wow, this is, these guys are on the ball.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we can take out of this is that everybody in the world is more knowledgeable on how, the things, the washing the hands. Like, how many times have you heard, if you just wash your hands on a regular basis with soap and water for 20 seconds, everything will be much better. And so we realize that leads to, well, what has somebody else touched that you've touched? What is those cross-contamination points? So we've used cross-contamination points with allergens forever, right? And so it's always been cross-contaminated, but it was always associated with allergens. Well, now cross-contamination is specifically associated with the virus as a whole. Like, and if you have it, well, then I get it because we touch the same thing or your own thing. So I think one of the things coming out of this is that heightened energy to hand washing stations, hand sanitation stations, and then also being very conscientious of where like hot spots are. So you've heard hot spots for where that is in the virus in the world, but where our hot spots could be from a sanitation spot within an organ, within any facility. And so I think that what people really like now is that, I know here at the Capitol Center, our facilities team will be actively cleaning, and people will be able to see them actively cleaning. And in the events that we've done in our other venues, that's part of our team now, that we take that and do that active cleaning. So making sure that visibility of hand washing, visibility of hand sanitization, and then visibility of active cleaners, not just cleaners pre and post, but active cleaning. I don't know that will ever go away, because I think people's now expectation is, by you doing that, I feel safer.
Mhm.
And so that, that part of it is something that, we'll see. But I do believe that's here to stay, and I do believe that if you're not thinking that way, then you're not being proactive enough. And so staffing is going to be something that's going to be a constant conversation, because the conversation always goes into, well, who pays for that? And I'll be very upfront and honest and say it's a shared cost, because we have to do our part, but we can't just do it for the same. But at the same token, that shared cost, the value of it is going to be through the roof, especially initially.
It's apparently before COVID, nobody cleaned.
No,
because
everything was disgusting.
COVID hit and everybody ran out of cleaning supplies. Nobody had them at their house before, right? So that was it.
Oh my gosh.
Got a good question here. Cocktail hours.
Sure.
Right? You mentioned a little bit earlier, usually you go to a bar, you mingle, you're talking. So how does that dynamic change, or does it just no more cocktail hours?
Well, it's what's going on right now for the next 3 months, and what will cocktail hour be? Right now, listen, it's sad to say, but cocktail hour does not look, feel, or resemble anything like cocktail hour. So cocktail, you can still have a cocktail hour, you can have a man service station, but the way that cocktail hours, the way that we're activating them right now is that if you have a high top table and they have to have seats at them. If you're sitting at that seat and there's others with you, they're considered to be in your party. And while you're seated at that seat, you can have your mask off. Get up from that seat, move around, do whatever you need to do. Mask has to be on. Social distancing has to be in play at all times, and social distancing is done by party. So those members that you sit with at that high top table, or if you're in a social setting where tables up to 10 people, and you are gathering with them specifically at that high top table. The big key right now, the rules as they state, is if you're sitting, you can have your mask off, and you can be having a beverage, a bite of food, or whatever, as long as there's people social distancing around you. So the world of mingling and going from table to table, place to place, it's kind of on halt right now, and that's tough, because that's, again, what food and beverage brings people together to do. So that at this point is a strong sticking point. So we are really trying to push people to say, hey, listen, let's do maybe cocktail hour in a situation where there is stations around the room, but they're either part of your tables that you're going to sit out for what terms to be your dinner, or that we serve an appetizer as an additional course, maybe, so that people could sit right away and not feel in that awkward setting. But right now, cocktail hour is a lot different than it normally used to be.
Sure thing.
If I could touch, Doug, also too, I want to make note, you talk about the idea of what social distancing looks like. The other half of our team here is our event managers, and they're actually actively working on lots of different floor plans for all different sorts of events, trade shows, a theater style setup, a social event, and they are getting up to speed on what those different scenarios looks like. So we're also preparing on our side as well to be able to present when someone says, okay, I want to have a cocktail party. What does that look like? While we can't show it to them in person, we can show it to them on paper and give them ideas, that go around that. So shout out to our event management team as well for working hard on that.
So I saw another question come in that I want to touch upon, that they asked to give a little bit more detail on a coffee station and how it can essentially be touchless. So two aspects is that the creamer, like a creamer situation, wouldn't be a creamer in a pitcher, if you will, and sugar and sweetener wouldn't be there with a spoon. But we'd have to set up the coffee stations to where if you had a stack of paper cups and you grab the top paper cup, you're essentially grabbing your own paper cup. When you went in front of the coffee urns and you're using a toggle mechanism, you're not touching a handle. And then picking up sugar and a sweetener or a creamer, we'd have to set the tables and lay the tables out to where you could actually pick up your sweetener and not touch anybody else's sweetener. You could pick up your little creamers individually and not touch anybody else's creamers. And that's why I mentioned it has to be managed in a sense. Could you theoretically do it, where it doesn't have to be managed yet, but then you're also trying to hope that everybody else is going to follow those rules and respect them. And that's where the management comes into play and making sure that you manage it. So can it be touchless? Absolutely. But the, guaranteeing that it is touchless takes management. And so that for sure. And then you also have, again, the other concept of a coffee station in the sense that if you are all in one group, you are 30 people, you want a coffee station, they're all from the same office, they all social distance, and they're comfortable with, I don't want you standing at that coffee station. I'm comfortable with it because you have a hand sanitizer right there. And after I get my sugar and sweet and low and my creamer, which, let's be honest, could potentially hit somebody else's finger, I can immediately throw that out and hit with a hand sanitizer because you've given me that accessibility. Well, then that's fine too. But again, it's comfort factor. And if you can immediately sanitizing, knowing that your hands are, away from you, not near your mouth or your face, and then immediately sanitize them after you're done, yes, it can absolutely be touchless.
Awesome.
Well, we're approaching our hour here as we keep things moving and try to stay within the hour. I think we've had some great questions and certainly a lot of topics. As in the previous webinars that we've done, we do follow up all of our question and answers with written follow-up. So you'll see all of our answers. We take the chat box and we take our questions that are in the PowerPoint and provide a written response. If you have a question or something comes up, please feel free to email us and we'll include those in the follow-up. Next week will be session 4 of our expert in the room, and we're going to talk communications. I think a lot of this, and we talk about, is we're selling confidence and we're trying to instill the customer. We, the Capital Center and Mazzone have to install it into you, the event planner. Then you, the event planner, you need to instill it into your attendees. You need to make sure that you can get those folks out and visiting again. And how do you work into a partial hybrid virtual versus in person? As we started these, we're starting to get some response here on utilizing the studio here we have set up to start to facilitate those. So I think we're starting to get back to business, and it's really exciting to see. So I think next week with Megan Baker and Baker Public Relations, I think we'll have a lot to offer on that. As I mentioned earlier, we are ready to meet you again. We're excited. We love the engagement that we have here from all you clients who are tuning in on our weekly episodes, and look forward to really getting you back into the facility and to do this again. Sean, thank you very much for your time. Great insight. You could tell that Mazzone has been working hard on this since March and is prepared for food service. Shannon, again, great insight in your follow up, and we're ready to host those meetings in conventions and smaller receptions and whatever the need as a multi-purpose facility. So ACES, again, thanks for the technical support, and the Convention Center Authority and just for their support in the facility itself. They've made a great investment in the facility. They're sustaining that investment, and they really support our operation. So a great shout out to the Convention Center Authority on their efforts as well. So thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to speaking to you next week. And again, Shannon and Amelia are available. Email them and with any questions you have on any topics, and we'll be sure to follow up. Thanks, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.